Izuku Midoriya is brought into a world full of superpowers known as quirks. But bringing himself or getting brought into this world without a quirk, well, a lot of people would think that it's very uncommon. And actually, a full 20% of the population is actually quirkless. And Izuku would be one of those people. But it seems like his mother, Inko Midoriya, would actually not be very worried about this fact, like, at all. It's a little bit odd, but at the age of around 4, 5, or even 6 years old, he still has not shown any signs of having a quirk. But his mother, well, she's like, oh no, like, there's nothing wrong. Everything's gonna be alright. Like, everything will turn out to be okay, which is a little bit odd. Like, why is she acting that way? Why exactly is she thinking that everything's gonna be fine if he doesn't have a quirk? And she tells him that everybody gets a quirk at a different time. You never really know. That it could come when he's older. It could show up and he could be a late bloomer. You never really know. And she tells him, like, they shouldn't worry. He shouldn't kind of be dreaded about it. He shouldn't worry a single thing, because she has a good feeling that one of these days coming very soon, maybe when he's older, maybe when he's a teenager, he'll get his quirk, he'll get his powers, and he won't have to worry about a single thing. And she tells him, but to start, let's start with some basic stuff. Let's teach you how to defend yourself. Let's teach you how to properly diet and do various different things. And as he grows older, as he's around 12 or 13 years old, these things are really useful. She would get him into sports and anything else that she possibly could think of. But even when he's around 13, she would start to worry just a little bit, wondering if his powers would ever show up. And the reason for this is because Inko Midoriya is a Viltrumite, believing that her son is eventually going to be granted or gain powers in the long run. Some are born with them, some get them when they're young, but some, they get them when they're around 17, maybe even 18 years old. And she gets a little bit worried about her child and a little bit worried about if he's ever going to really get his powers. But she tries to keep that straight face and say, yeah, no, you should be okay. I mean, I'm sure eventually will show up. And this would all the way lead him to he's about 15 or 16 years old, going into his classroom, and everybody would be talking about how they want to be heroes, that everybody wants to go to UA, but the two people that are trying to get into UA are Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo. And of course, Bakugo is pissed about this. A quirkless loser like Deku could never get into UA, and he tells him that he should just give up right now. But Izuku doesn't really take that into account. He doesn't worry about what Bakugo's saying. He doesn't worry about Bakugo saying this or that, or being upset about this or that. He doesn't listen to him. He believes, like, you know what? If I'm going to be great, if I'm going to be a hero, if I'm going to kind of make that next step, I'm going to make it. And there's nothing, there's nobody, there is not a single thing that is going to tell him otherwise. And Izuku Midoriya makes that very clear, that he's not going to let anybody else sit there and tell him what he can and can't do. He wants to make sure that they all know, they all remember that this is how they treated him. This is how they treated Izuku when he was growing up, when he was fighting for his spot, when he was grasping onto that spot to be a hero. And he makes it very clear that he's not giving up. And this would piss off Bakugo. Bakugo would even try to attack him after school, but luckily Izuku, he's somewhat trained in self-defense, so he's able to get out of harm's way, move out of the way, not get hit, and he's able to, somewhat defend himself. So it's not like he's gonna get hurt or beat up by Bakugo to an extent. He ends up being okay, and luckily enough, he gets out of harm's way, and after the day is all said and done, he would just head home. But he would decide that he wanted to go the long way. He wanted to head home the not so normal way to actually go home for him. And in doing so, he's writing in his journal, thinking about various things, and this would lead to a villain. Yes, the sludge villain showing up and attacking him. And as a sludge villain would attack him, Izuku would try to run away. he would be terrified. What does he do? He has to do something. There's just no way he's gonna survive this, and the sludge villain would eventually grab him, get a hold of him, and start trying to take him over. As he's trying to take Izuku over, Izuku begins to feel something, feel this odd sensation as if it's his body telling him that he can break free, that he can get out, and he can save himself. And that's exactly what Izuku Midoriya does. He breaks free. He breaks free from the sludge villain, obliterating it into little pieces, and it scatters all over the walls. The sludge villain's pieces would just splatter everywhere, and he would be in shock, standing there in the middle of this kind of giant goo pile, and he would be looking around thinking, how did I do that? How the hell did I just do that? And he's in shock, in awe, but also he realizes that he just got his quirk, his powers, whatever you want to call it, he just got them. And he's in complete and utter shock, but he now knows that he did it. He made it. He has the powers that his mother was talking about for so long. He has the powers that he's been kind of searching for so long. He made it. He got there. He's finally going to be able to be the hero he always wanted to be. And of course, this is when All Might would show up, see him, and would be like, whoa, what just happened here? Like, what happened, kid? Like, are you okay? What's going on? And Izuku would explain everything. Tell him what happened, tell him what's going on, and even tell him that he was able to defeat the villain himself. It's because his quirk just arrived. Like, his quirk just showed up, in which immediately he's like, whoa, really? Like, I haven't heard many late bloomers. That's pretty impressive. I'm really surprised that someone like in this world nowadays, it can be a late bloomer. Like, you are a late bloomer and you got your quirk just now. That's pretty damn insane. In which Izuku says, like, yeah, I mean, I was shocked too. I was in complete shock when I was able to do it. But now I'm here. Now I could do these things. It seems like I have some sort of maybe like super strength or something like that. He doesn't, obviously Izuku has literally no idea, but he would learn a little bit more when he would head home and speak with his mother. Because when he goes home and his mother's there waiting and he begins speaking with her and she tells him that he actually, yes, he does have he does have powers, but it's not a quirk. She then begins to explaining to Izuku that his powers come from an alien race, a race known as the Viltrumites, other known as the Viltrumite Empire. And she explains that long ago, they were the strongest beings in the universe, but soon, like a virus of some sorts actually cut them to pieces, so much so that there was very little Viltrumites even living. To her knowledge, there's borderline only 10 that exist throughout the universe, but the other 9 are scattered throughout various different planets that are very, very far away. But she ended up here. She ended up here to being able to actually be granted a brand new life. And she explains to him that she's actually been here for a pretty long time, almost 100 years. Some people, they don't even know her by Inko Midoriya, but others know her by various different names that went missing or that ended up, passing away. She explains this to him and says that he is a superhero. He is not only human, he is half Viltrumite, of an insanely powerful and warrior race that can really protect everybody and stand alone and help as many people as possible. And she tells him this is why she was so confident. This is why she knew that he would eventually get his quirk. In which Izuku is in shock. Are you serious? Like, that's why you said that? That's why you believed I would get my quirk, because you knew that this would be the case? Like, you knew that I would basically be that next up-and-comer? I would be that next person. I would be the next hero, a.k.a. I would be the first kind of half-human Viltrumite, in which, yeah, that's the case, in which she tells Izuku that they can't tell anybody about this. They have to keep this under wraps because they don't know what could happen if this got around. They don't know what could happen if people started knowing or learning or hearing or anything like that. She wants to make sure that they don't go overboard with this. She wants to make sure that they keep everything that is talked about here, about the idea of Viltrumites and stuff like that, under wraps and only between them. And he nods his head, of course, like, I won't tell anybody, I promise. In which he asks her, can you please train me? Teach me how to use my powers. In which, of course, she would say, yeah, of course, I'll teach you how to utilize your powers. Let's just start with the basics. And she would start by teaching him the idea of leverage, that the Viltrumites can turn everything from air to anything you can think of into leverage, allowing them to fly. On top of that, being able to hold back, but on top of that, being able to utilize your strength efficiently. All of these various different capabilities that a Viltrumite may be able to do, she begins to teach him. And this would take over the next 10 months, but they wouldn't do anything like heavy lifting or anything like that. Like, they wouldn't do some like crazy, insane training regimen because, well, she doesn't have the money for that. She doesn't have, the actual value that she can really get out of getting some crazy capabilities that would allow him to train just a bit better. But still, she can still teach him how to utilize his own powers, how to utilize the quote-unquote quirk that he has been granted, leading him to eventually kind of trying out for the UA entrance exam. And this exam would be a basic one. Now, for starters, of course, he would have the written portion of the exam, but the real portion has to be the kind of practical or robot portion of this exam, and he makes very quick work of this part of the exam, flying around, destroying robot after robot, and he would have no issues handling all of it. No issues kind of handling and putting aside these so-called robots, and these robots are borderline nothing. I mean, these robots are an absolute freaking joke, like genuinely an absolute joke, and it's pretty insane to watch. But Izuku flies around destroying these robots, and a lot of people who are watching, they're like, whoa. I mean, it says here that he didn't get his quirk until like 10 months prior, and of course this is pretty damn insane. But yeah, this is ridiculous. How is this the case? How was he able to do this? How was he able to like legitimately kind of get to that level? How was he able to legitimately be at that high of a level when literally he just got his quirk, he just got his powers? It makes no sense. But he must have been training like all hell. He must have been training like crazy, because no normal person would be able to do the things he was doing, legitimately flying through robot after robot, destroying, obliterating, and handling the robots easily. And nobody else would have been able to do this, not very easily, like at all. So the fact that he's doing it on 10 months of training with his quirk, that right there is beyond impressive. That right there is beyond any kind of impressive thing that people have really ever seen, because there's not many people out there with the capabilities that Izuku does, and with only 10 months of training, that could do the things he's doing right now in front of them all, destroying all these robots and eventually even stopping the 0-point robot from squishing a girl on the ground stuck under rubble. He proves that he's definitely that he definitely should be there, but also proves that he is worth the #1 spot in UA or Class 1A when he gets his letter. A letter that would tell him that he is the #1 student, and he is the future of what they're trying to do. Now, not too long would pass, not too much time would pass, and eventually the time for UA, the first day, would arrive. And when he would arrive, he would see Bakugo, and Bakugo would be pissed, telling him that he knew he was hiding something, that he's just a loser, that he tried to make fun of him, he tried to make him look bad by hiding his quirk. But Izuku tells him that he's a late bloomer. He just got his quirk 10 months ago. He can believe it or not, but he doesn't care. At the end of the day, he has his powers, and even without his powers, he was so much better than Bakugo. In which Bakugo is pissed, and he goes to shoot an explosion at Izuku, but as he does this, his quirk would be cancelled by their teacher, Shota Aizawa. Aizawa canceling his quirk, telling him to sit down now or he will be expelled, and this would lead them to actually their quirk assessment. As they head off to do their quirk assessment, he tells Izuku to start immediately. So as Izuku heads up and he grabs a ball, he would chuck it and he would throw it so hard that it goes into space. Everybody would stand there and see that his score was infinity, and he would look at them and shrug and say that this right here is just the tip of the iceberg, because he's just still learning how to utilize all of these powers, and nobody else is going to be able to touch him once he gets a full grasp on it. And he wants to tell everybody here, especially Bakugo, that he is not anyone's enemy. He is no one's threat. He is no anything. He wants to be a student just like all of them. So don't look at him any differently, but just know that he is here to compete if that's what they want. Of course, this is directed toward some of the other students like Bakugo and Todoroki and maybe a couple others, but for the most part, people think this is pretty damn cool. They tell him that this is awesome, that whatever he can do, like, they want to see more and more and more, in which Aizawa eventually says, like, this isn't supposed to be fun and games, and whoever gets last place, they're going to be expelled. But, of course, Izuku has literally no chance of getting expelled, but he shows off all of his capabilities from his flight, his strength, and all these things that he can do in one foul swoop, getting first in every single category of the quirk assessment, easily blowing everybody out of the water. And a lot of people there, well, they're excited to still train and work with Izuku, because it's pretty damn obvious that his capabilities are on the level of someone like All Might. I mean, that's the way they look at him. They look at him like this Superman-like hero, like this person that is of an insane caliber, and it blows their mind. But Izuku, well, he passes all of these number one in the quirk assessment. And of course, this is all like a ruse from Aizawa to expel somebody. And even if he does expel them, he'll bring them back the next day. But with all that said, the next day would eventually ensue, and he would have a training session, Heroes versus Villains training session. That would be him and Ochako versus Bakugo and Tenya, which this would be quick work for Izuku. He could choose to go fight Bakugo and stuff like that, but he would choose to swoop up Ochako and just fly around to find where the bomb is through the windows. And he would quickly find that and find the bomb where the bomb is through the windows, and very easily set himself up and set everyone up for kind of a quick match that they had to watch. A very, very quick one that is borderline just over instantly, and Izuku didn't even have to fight. Like, he straight up didn't even have to fight at all. He just, he took things really in a smart direction. He decided, hey, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle it? And the way he handled it was exactly how, well, the other teachers, All Might, and many others would say was the right direction. And that's exactly what he ended up doing, and exactly what ended up happening. And it led to him obviously having a pretty damn good outcome. But of course, Bakugo is not too happy about that outcome. But it's not like he can really do much about it. Just because you don't like an outcome doesn't mean you can do anything about the outcome. But at the same time, Izuku is making kind of a fool of Bakugo, especially for someone who was declaring that he was going to be the best, that he was going to be better than everyone else. And someone like Izuku swoops on in with 10 months notice and basically makes you look like a joke. It definitely bothers him to a certain degree, but they are friends, right? Deep down inside, Bakugo sees this and thinks he's happy for Izuku, but at the same time, he freaking hates him. He absolutely despises what he's doing. But there's little bits of Bakugo that he really does care that Izuku is actually doing well, and this would continue on for a while. Now, of course, they would head off to the USJ for even more training, more specifically in rescue training, and that's something that Izuku really wanted to get into, because at the end of the day, you need some real world type of scenarios, real world type of situations to really get your head in the game. And to get his head in the game, he wants to work hard at in terms of like saving people, rescuing people, and anything he can possibly really think of. And when he gets to the USJ, I mean, he's excited. I mean, he's really up for the battle, up for the chance to really try things out. But before you know it, a portal would open up and villains would come pouring through, countless numbers of them, and Aizawa would tell Pro Hero 13 to get the students out of harm's way. But before you know it, Izuku would have been teleported away to a nearby area, actually an area with a bit of a lake, and he would be basically tossed into that lake. But before you know it, he flies straight out of there, and he goes toward where Asui and Mineta are. He tells them that he could just fly them over the lake if they want to, but they're going to have to deal with these villains anyways, in which Izuku says that he's going to go handle that now, which Asui asks him, like, do you want any help? And Izuku shrugs his shoulders and says, hey, if you feel that you're capable and you want to help out, jump in there. Feel free. He's not going to say no. There's no point of not saying no, and any help will be appreciated. He jumps in with Asui, and they absolutely dismantle these little villains. And immediately Asui's realizing, like, these villains were not prepared for this. Yes, the idea was to put them in a position where they're utilizing water or one of their big strengths, but it's pretty obvious that they were not ready for the powerhouse that is Izuku Midoriya. But on top of that, they weren't really prepared to actually deal with another kind of amphibian or Aquarius like hero. I mean, this hero or this person in Asui can literally or has advantages in the water. So the fact is, she's going to be able to help out and also take down these villains easier than normal, because at the end of the day, she's pretty good in the water, like pretty damn solid. So the fact is, they're not going to really have that much of a chance, especially with the help of Izuku being able to hold his breath not only for a long time, but also being able to absolutely dismantle, like destroy these villains very easily. And after dismantling them, he would take Asui and Mineta out of there and get them to somewhat safety. But as this is occurring, he looks and he sees that a Nomu, this giant creature, disgusting creature, is about to attack Aizawa. But Izuku would jump in the way, blocking the hit, actually tanking the hit to a certain degree. He obviously moves Aizawa out of the way and tells him that he can help him with this fight. He should just focus on the creepy guy with the hand on his face, and he'll focus on the big guy. In which Aizawa says this is not a good idea until he sees Izuku absolutely smack the Nomu backwards and send him flying. And then he realizes, okay, maybe this is a bit above my pay grade, so I'm gonna let the kid help me. And that's exactly what he does. Izuku takes on the Nomu one-on-one as Shigaraki is subdued by Aizawa. Now, for the most part, Aizawa can handle Shigaraki and even handle Kurogiri to an extent, but with the help of Bakugo and Shoto, it seems as if it makes the fight a lot easier. And Izuku just goes 1-for-1 with the Nomu, just absolutely going back and forth. And yes, Izuku is taking some damage, and he's taking quite a bit of it. But at the same time, he seems to be faster than the Nomu. He seems to be quite a bit as strong, or quite a bit maybe even stronger than the Nomu. And it seems as if Izuku is really keeping up. And every single little bit of action and fighting and chance to really kind of fight in scenarios like this, he seems to be getting even more powerful than he ever expected. And he continues to build on this more and more and more, leading to the eventual arrival of All Might. And when All Might arrives to go 2-on-1 with the Nomu, they're able to land their kind of signature punches, or, well, the whole Detroit Smash thing. And of course, Izuku would kind of adopt it as well, landing a blow straight to the Nomu and knocking it clean out of the area or out of the USJ, and immediately being able to lock up Shigaraki and Kurogiri before anything else could ever happen. With the other heroes arriving, it's more backup on more backup, and it leads to the eventual restraint of the League of Villains and all the villains that are actually there. And All Might, he would see this and he would think, whoa, this is insanity. This kid, he's insanely powerful. This is beyond anything he thought it was going to be. When he heard the kid was kind of got his powers, or he just got them right then and there, and he basically had a lot of time to kind of train. Like, he had to train to get better and, you know, get more powerful. He didn't expect the kid to be at this level, like, already. He is in complete and utter shock at the fact that this kid is at such a high level without much experience. And it seems as if he continues to get, like, in terms of a higher level, more and more as they continue training and training some more. And after all this is said and done, after all of this is put behind them, and as all the villains are swooped up and captured, All Might considers something that would change the course for Izuku more than anything, and that is offering him a chance, offering him the opportunity to actually become the successor to All Might, offering him a chance, offering Izuku Midoriya the ability to gain the powers of One for All. But Izuku, he doesn't know. He's like, I'm not sure about this. Like, are you sure I'm the right person for the job? Like, don't get me wrong. Your secret's safe with me. I'm not going to say a word to anyone else. But are you sure that I really am the one for the job here? And he's questioning it like, are you sure? Like, I don't know. Right? I don't know. But I do have the ability and the capability to do things outside, you know, of needing One for All, or outside of needing his powers. But of course, All Might would say it's always up to him, and Izuku kind of shakes his head. He just doesn't know. He would love to talk to his mom or his mother about this if she believed like this was a good choice or a good idea. And he thinks about it for a second and says, you know what, let's do that. Let's put your mother in the loop and we'll have a little bit of a conversation. We'll keep it, let's just say, a little bit ambiguous, but let's make sure to tell her about it. Now, before the UA Sports Festival, they do have a conversation with Inko about this. They talk to Inko. They talk to about a chance at gaining even more power for Izuku. And Inko hears this, and she immediately believes that it has something to do with like a special training or something along those lines. Maybe something that they can do, in which she says as long as it doesn't hurt her child, and as long as it will further his chances of, you know, being the person he wants to be, then she doesn't see why not. There's really nothing bad that could come of it, in which of course that would be the case. But of course All Might would say that they just wanted to run it by her and make sure that everything was okay. And Izuku says, how about this, after the UA Sports Festival, he will gain the powers of All Might, or the quirk of One for All. He tells him if he sees anything throughout the UA Sports Festival that makes him believe that Izuku doesn't deserve it, then shut it all down. In which, of course, that probably wouldn't be the case, but they do agree to this. And Izuku goes off to take up part in the UA Sports Festival, and he is the #1 student, so he gives a bit of a speech. That speech would involve, you know, saying that everyone's gonna have a great time. He hopes that everybody gets a chance to show off what they're capable of, and all this stuff, right? Yada yada yada. All that good stuff. And he tells them that nonetheless, at the end of the day, everybody is going to give it their absolute all, their absolute kind of their absolute best. So they're going to see what everyone is truly capable of, and everyone is very excited to see that specifically. And quickly, and right off the bat, they would see what Izuku is about and see what Izuku is capable of. Because in terms of the first part, which is like the obstacle course race, Izuku would easily speed through the obstacle course and just destroy everybody, like absolutely destroy everybody. And everyone's like, whoa, this is pretty wild. So like the fact that this kid, that Izuku Midoriya, this guy that is, let's just say flat out, got his quirk late, or his powers late, is capable like this. He's able to do stuff like this. It makes people really just have insane questions. I mean, at the end of the day, he was somebody that was a late bloomer, somebody that people looked at as, yeah, maybe he has a chance. I mean, the chances of you being a late bloomer, I mean, it's like nothing, right? Like, you're not gonna get that far. But quickly, that whole narrative would shut down, because Izuku would easily get first in the obstacle course race and then proceed to absolutely kill the cavalry battle, leading him to facing off with Hitoshi Shinso in the actual first 1v1. But without even talking, Izuku is all business. That is literally how he's been trained from the very beginning, or from, the very beginning, even from when he didn't even have his powers. He's always been about business, and that's it. He's not thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give this guy a chance, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And he immediately jumps into action and immediately would eliminate Shinso before anything could even occur. And in doing so, this would make things very, 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 very simple for Izuku, and make things pretty straightforward, as he eliminates Shinso, not being affected obviously by the quirk, or of like the mind control quirk. But on top of that, he wouldn't have to worry about really much else. I mean, at all. I mean, he would face off with someone like Todoroki, who, don't get me wrong, is very powerful in his own right, but him only utilizing his eyesight, or his that one side, or his mother's side, definitely puts him at a massive disadvantage. And in doing so, putting him at that massive disadvantage without his fire, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Izuku would handle him. But Izuku tries to get that fire side out of him, tries to kind of goad it out of him. But this version of Izuku actually doesn't kind of approach things the same way that the original would. He would approach things in the way of trying to make him angry, make him mad, trying to get him to fully lock in and do this or do that, but it doesn't work, unfortunately. And Izuku just decides, you know what, fine, if you don't want to, if you don't want to do it, if you don't want to, take that next step and be like that, use that fire side of yours, then so be it. And Izuku just leaves it as is and decides to, for the most part, just defeat him quickly. And this would lead to a lot of these other people getting defeated quickly as well, leading to Tenya Ida being easily dispatched of, knocked out, and defeated. But on top of that, there's one other person that wants to put his hands on Izuku Midoriya and defeat him, and or show that he is capable, and that is the one and only Katsuki Bakugo. But Bakugo, quickly he'll realize that this fight is far from fair. This fight is not the fight that he really should have wanted, and not the fight that he really should have been looking for, because soon he'll realize the level and the difference between Izuku and him, and soon he'll realize that the difference is larger than you could possibly imagine. Because when they fight, even when he lands an explosion clean, Izuku would shrug it off very easily, and he would shrug it off to the point where everybody would think it did 0 damage. Now, is that 100% true? No, of course it had some sort of effect, but overall, it's not having that much of an effect that it really could. Now, and the more Izuku kind of gets prepared in this regard, the more he gets used to a lot of these things, let's just say Izuku's going to be more and more prepared, more and more durable, and more powerful as he gets along. And after defeating Bakugo, after showing everybody what he's capable of, this would be the final judgment of Izuku deciding to take on One For All, and Izuku actually becoming the successor to, well, One For All and the one and only All Might. Now, with all that done, with all that said, All Might would be happy to have a successor like him, sending him off to train with someone like Gran Torino, allowing him to actually be pretty damn good at almost everything that he does. Gran Torino teaches him quite a bit in terms of moves, in terms of martial arts, and also in terms of controlling One For All, giving him the ability to utilize 15 to 20% of it on top of his already insane like strength, durability, and power in general. Izuku and well, his ability to maintain One for All is also at an insanely high level, and the reason for this, well, it's because his power that he has, the power that was granted to him, by his literal mother, isn't a quirk. It is powers of biology. It is from and built in to his DNA. So the fact is, there is no repercussions for him to actually be granted One for All. There's no repercussions in terms of, eventually he will die early on, or eventually these quirks will hurt him a lot more. That's actually not the case. None of that is the case because Izuku doesn't have a quirk. He is still quirkless just like All Might. But All Might wasn't, the son of the universe's most insane conquerors known as the Viltrumites. He wasn't the son of someone like Inko Midoriya, who is legitimately a full-blooded Viltrumite. And that right there gives Izuku an upper hand that not even a single person on this planet will truly understand. And it would lead him to very easily handling and dismantling the hero killer, dismantling and helping his so-called friend Tanya Ida. And I say so-called because it's not like they're really buddy-buddy, but they are somewhat friends, right? They're acquaintances, you could say, but at the same time, they are still somewhat in a good friendship in a way. Now, with all that said, though, Izuku defeats the hero killer, or Stain, with the help of Todoroki, very easily, in fact. And yes, they would get into a little bit of trouble, but nothing would really set them up further than that. And he wouldn't actually get into any permanent trouble. And the teachers, or like Gran Torino's and Endeavor, they would take the brunt of it, at least for a little bit. And Endeavor would also take the the credit for the defeat of Stain, other known as the hero killer, leading them to eventually going back to UA and going to take on their own final exams that start with written portions that Izuku and many others study up on quite a bit, but also eventually this practical portion that initially they thought would be robots, but it would actually be pro heroes themselves, or teachers, faculty, stuff like that, against the students. And the people that are going head to head, or the students that are going to team up, are Izuku Midoriya and no one else. Izuku would hear this and think, why am I alone? Why is it just me? But then he would be told, because he's going against one person and one person only, that being the greatest hero alive, known as All Might. In which Izuku would be shocked, be a little bit taken back by this, but also at the same time be kind of excited. Izuku is pretty interested in this. I mean, he gets to take on All Might. You're telling me he gets to take on arguably the greatest hero ever in a one-on-one fight? Yeah. I mean, who would ever turn that down? Who would ever want to give up that chance? So when he stands face to face, one kind of street length away from All Might, and he's staring him down, there's a lot of people that are excited to see the outcome. But someone else who is also excited is actually his mother. His mother stands there in a nearby kind of area box and wants to watch her son actually fight. Her son take on the greatest hero, and she's given this opportunity because of All Might himself and kind of a conversation they had. But there's an uneasy feeling that All Might and many others get from Inko watching this fight. Why exactly would she want to watch her own son take on a full-fledged hero? Why would she want to watch her son take on somebody who could potentially hurt them or hurt her son? Isn't it kind of a scary thing for a parent? But Inko leans forward in her chair as if she is watching with intent, watching very, very focused, watching and wondering what her son can really do. And that right there makes people a little bit uneasy, but they can't say anything really at all because it's not like she's done anything wrong. But eventually, they will know exactly why Inko Midoriya is watching so intently at a battle between her son, Izuku Midoriya, and the one and only All Might. Izuku Midoriya faces off with All Might himself, 1-on-1. And this right here is a battle that his own mother is watching very intently on. A lot of people, they're wondering why, but soon they'll know, because immediately when they jump in to fight each other, when Izuku and All Might go head to head, it's pretty obvious that Izuku has full capabilities to not only keep up, but might even outclass All Might. He begins to actually, in terms of a straight up fighting style and martial arts skill, he is far beyond All Might. In raw strength, he might be even more beyond, but even Inko doesn't know if her own son is holding back. Izuku goes blow for blow with All Might, dodging and weaving and slipping punches as they go along, leading them to have an absolute fantastic, fight that leads in Izuku actually defeating All Might by covering him in capture tape. His mother watching intently and wondering if Izuku could have actually won via a different way, via a way of, actually knocking him out or something along those lines. But nonetheless, Inko is done watching and would head home and would leave before her own son would see anything else, or basically get to see her while she was watching. After it all is said and done, the rest of the students go along with their own kind of events and go along with their own kind of final exams, and Izuku would prepare for the eventual go to basically head off to the forest training camp. And once they do head off to that forest training camp, after they get pushed off that mountain, he would fly through the entirety of the forest, destroying and getting rid of a lot of these like earth-like monsters, and starting his journey with a ton of training. Because for the next week and a half or so, or next week or so, all they do really is train. Izuku takes on people like Tiger and starts lifting extremely heavy objects and flying at insane speeds, practicing day in and day out as they're trying to get him to heighten his abilities and also his skills to a different level. But of course, there are kind of these restrictions, you could say. Izuku's kind of way of growing, or way of getting even better and stronger, is slowing down. Izuku isn't really able to get that much stronger without some really, really heavy capabilities in terms of, being actually able to get better, stronger, and or kind of more abilities, because, well, the training sessions and the actual technology that is used to help Izuku train isn't really that insane, isn't really to the degree that it really needs to be for him to get that much more powerful. Now, don't get me wrong, Izuku is very powerful. Like, there is no way around that. There is no saying that he's not very strong. But in terms of training right now, he hasn't really been able to make the strides that he really would like to make. Now, even with all that said, though, Izuku still makes some decent leeway and makes some decent kind of advance in terms of getting more powerful. And he takes this entire forest training camp, training with others, training himself, and so on and so forth. And once they head off, once they start leaving the forest training camp, is when things would start absolutely just changing and absolutely flipping on its head, because Izuku would head off in the bus, and as they're going by or with the bus by different cities and areas, the bus would actually flip over. And this was because of a Nomu. A Nomu would attack. A Nomu would actually flip the bus over, and Izuku would be in shock at what's happening, but he would realize that they need to do something very quickly, because if they don't, there's a good chance that a lot of these students could get hurt, die, or something along those lines. So they try their best to get the heck out of harm's way, and Izuku kind of flies flies some people out of there and gets people out of bad spots and stuff like that. Now they do get out of harm's way. The teachers kind of take over and the pro heroes take over as, of course, everybody else gets out of the way, and Izuku and his classmates get to safety, and they're basically placed in this building of some sorts to just watch what's happening and watch the chaos. And as the chaos unfolds, heroes like Mirako, Sir Night-Eye, Endeavor are taking on Nomu after Nomu, but on top of that, they also get glimpses of All Might taking on the one and only All for One, a fight between two of these absolute insanely powerful beings, but on top of that, two people that are, well, rivals to the very end. At the end of the day, these two people were rivals. Not rivals in the point of, like, you know, this friendly rivalry that they go back and forth. No, far from that. They are rivals to the fact that All Might has watched his own mentor die at the hands of All for One. So with one final clash, one singular punch, they have one punch to end it all. All Might would stand up high, and he would wind up his United States of Smash, preparing himself for one singular clash. And All for One would do the exact same, winding up his own attack, his own prep, and his preparation to land one final blow, one final attack, and one final strike that will end it all, end every last bit of it, and end everything that is going to collapse for Hero Society. And he's about to strike, and they're both about to go head to head. But as the punches were about to fly, a hand would go surging through the chest of All for One, and he would fall directly toward the ground and would be gone for good. And the person that stands there, the person that floats there actually, right in front of All Might, well, is wearing this odd-looking costume, an odd-looking suit of some sorts that is all white with this kind of like trim of dark gray, and this would be Inko Midoriya. In complete shock, Izuku doesn't even know what's happening, what even just happened, and All Might would tell her, "What did she do? Why'd you do that? I mean, we didn't have to do anything. Like, you didn't have to kill him. No, what is going on? How did you do that? What's happening?" In which she tells him that this is going to be the final time that these so-called heroes will get the say in what they believe is right. Because from now on, the Viltrumite Empire will have every say, and the Viltrumite Empire will make this world, make it so that no other heroes will ever be needed, because there will be no villains to be dealt with. And every single person will know what peace looks like as long as they follow suit. In which this would obviously shock the hell out of All Might. All Might would be thinking that you're one of the parents of one of the kids that shows so much promise. Why would you do this? What's going on? How did you do this? This doesn't make any sense. In which she says that it doesn't have to make sense. None of it does. Not a single lick of it. All he needs to know is that this is the end of an era and the end of what they believe as Hero Society. And she tells him that he either will fall in line or he won't. But each decision has vastly different options. All Might would stand there and go to actually swing his United States of Smash directly at Inko. But as Inko would look at this, she would catch it with one singular hand and would tell him that that was the wrong choice, slamming him into the ground and dragging him through it. As Izuku would be in shock watching this all unfold, he would fly straight through a window, flying directly towards the location. He stops right there. He stands there looking. "What are you doing? What's going on? What are you doing, mother?" And as he does this, as she sees this, she tells him that all of this, everything she said, it wasn't a lie necessarily. The Viltrumite Empire, though, is still alive, still well, and there's far more of them than they think. And soon, the Viltrumite Empire will arrive here and expect this planet to be prepared for their arrival. And they will do just that. And she tells Izuku that he will fall in place, because he will follow his mother and make sure that all of these villains, everything here on this planet, it will ensue peace. There will be no hunger. There will be no emergencies. There will be nothing. No sickness. No anything. All of it. You won't have to worry about any of it. This right here is going to change it all. Inko says this and says it so convincingly to Izuku. He doesn't know what to think. But of course, All Might's trying to tell him, like, don't do this. What are you thinking? You are my successor. You could change everything. You can ensue peace some other way. It doesn't need to be like this. It doesn't need to be through force. It doesn't need to be through the Viltrumite Empire or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be like this, Izuku. It doesn't. And he tries to plead to him, tries to plead to Inko, Midoriya, tries to plead to them both. But Inko says that none of it will matter. All the words he says, none of it matters. He should save his breath, because soon her son will come around. Soon he will understand what this all means. And as this is happening, as she's saying these things, Izuku would shoot a punch directly at her and look toward All Might and tell him to get out of here right now. Inko would stand up and shake her head as she would make her, crack her neck a little bit and tell him that was the worst mistake of his life, the worst mistake ever. And they would go head to head, Izuku utilizing even One for All, utilizing that extra power up, and he tries his best to go one-on-one with his own mother, but it seems as if she has all the experience, all the power, and all the strength beyond anything that he could really comprehend, at least to a certain extent. But this fight alone brings out a different side of Izuku, the Viltrumite side of Izuku. It gets more scrappy, it gets more brutal, and gets more absolute. It causes absolute carnage, and it continues to kind of go over and over and over again, and kind of goes insane. And Izuku continues to try and get through to his own mother, telling her that this is not the way. They could save them in a different way. They don't have to send them to basically, to camps. They don't have to, segregate them. They don't have to shut them all down and let the Viltrumite Empire take over. But she tells him that the only way that they will be safe, the only way that everything will be fine, and the only way that every single person here will be completely cured of sickness, of pain, of hatred, of anything, is through this, through their will, through their power, and through their wants. And she knows that the Viltrumite Empire, with their technology, can save this entire planet, and all the villainy will be shut down before you know it. And this would get to Izuku a little bit, wondering, maybe this is the way. Maybe this is the only course of action. But he still pushes himself, fights as much as possible, fights for the freedom of this planet. That's until the fight would continue on more and more, and other people would try to jump in, but he would tell them not to, because soon they would see how much of a difference in power between Inko and them really is, because they would be shot down and shattered to the ground before you know it, leading to an eventual climax of the fight, leading to Izuku Midoriya laying on the ground, bloodied, beaten, and lost. Izuku looks up at his mother, and she tells him that this didn't have to be this way. He can still be a part of the Viltrumite Empire, but Izuku struggles and tries to say something, tries to do something, telling her, don't do this. This isn't it. You don't have to do this. In which she even tells him that this doesn't have to be the way he thinks it has to be. This could be better for all of them, better for everybody. Just listen, just think about it. In which she knocks him out and just lets him stay there, and would start her own plan to stop everything, starting with all the villains, cleaning them up quicker than you could imagine, destroying buildings after buildings of villain after villain, and it seems as if she's taking it into her own hands to handle things the way she believes they need to be handled, dealing with these villains, dealing with any of the prisoners within the jails and the prisons, destroying everything, killing all of them, and eventually even destroying and eliminating the Shihazaikai and any other villains that dare to stand up, especially any other heroes that dare to stand up, because there's somebody on the rise, somebody that is headed over on a jet plane or standing on a jet headed that way, being that of Star and Stripe, knowing that All Might has been defeated, that many others have been eliminated and destroyed. She knows that everything will trickle over eventually to them, and eventually it will trickle over to where they stay, where they live, and where they have their loved ones. So she goes out of her own way to try to shut it down. But with Star and Stripe arriving, with her eventually getting and arriving in Japan, she doesn't have much of an option, much of a choice. And she tries her absolute best, tries everything in her arsenal, changing the world orders, changing anything she can. And just by a tiny bit, she gets some slight upper hand on Inko, and gets just enough of an upper hand that she might be able to stop her. Will it be at the cost of her own life? Maybe. But as long as she's stopped, there might be a chance. But Inko even tells her that she can do whatever she wants. If she dies here, she gets ended here, the Viltrumite Empire will still eventually arrive. Not for her, not for Inko, not for her son, not for anybody, but because they are conquerors. Because they have a conquest. Because they seek out, they destroy, they overtake, and they command. And that is what they are. The Viltrumite Empire is beyond their wildest dreams. And she tells them flat out that this right here, this choice that they are making, the choice of not complying, the choice that they are trying to stop people, I mean, genuinely, it's going to lead to a lot more death than they could possibly imagine. And Star and Stripe would laugh at this, saying that with her gone, there will be no threat. With her gone, they will prepare and they will be ready for anything else that's to come. And Star and Stripe would reach out, and she's about to command her final world order. Her final command, her final order is to have Inko Midoriya, if she moves, she is to be absolutely destroyed, obliterated, and eliminated. And as she's about to finish this last singular word, as she's about to finish the last words that will ensue in the destruction of an actual Viltrumite, a hand would go soaring through the chest of Star and Stripe. And as this happens, she's in shock. She can't believe it. She doesn't know what's happening. Vision is fading. Blood, she's losing it so quickly. And then as she falls from the sky, she sees who it is. Somebody in green and white with gray trimming. This is the son of a Viltrumite. This is Izuku Midoriya. A choice has been made. A choice as the son of an actual Viltrumite, and really a choice to be made as a Viltrumite himself. His mother looks at him and smiles and nods her head and says that this is for the best. This is for the future of the Viltrumite Empire, and this is for the future of this entire planet. And the last sight that many of these heroes see is two people that look very, very similar. Green eyes and green hair in clothing that looks absolutely daunting, as if they are warriors or even a part of some sort of alien military, and they are floating above in the sky. And they look up, and all they can see is these two people floating above them with the body of one of the strongest heroes in the world on the ground, and they don't have much of a choice other than to submit. The choice is to give up your lives for the Viltrumite Empire and choose that the Viltrumite Empire will make everything great, everything better, and everything manageable. No more hunger, no more disease, no more hurting. This is what the future of Earth, this is what the future of Japan and every place upon Earth will now know. But in other universes, all across the multiverse, maybe it's different. Maybe Izuku would have been a lone Viltrumite that becomes a hero of this planet. Maybe there's a world where Izuku decides to stay on the other side and try to stop his mother, but maybe there's a world where Izuku fell the day he stood up, the day he tried to stop his mother from conquering this world from the Viltrumite Empire. But maybe there's also a universe that the Viltrumite Empire was bound to show up anyways, and all of this would have been inevitable. But with that said, that is where this story will end. And if you guys enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the series. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.